Hello and welcome to this story. This is not fiction. This is not a movie. This is real. This is the story of fear. This is the story of silence. This is the story of a dream that almost died before it even began. My name is Daniel Moore. I am 29 years old. I come from a small town in Poland, a place where life is simple and predictable. People wake up early, work hard, come home tired, and repeat the same routine every day. Dreams exist there, but they are quiet. They stay hidden inside people's hearts. I was always a quiet person, not because I was shy, not because I was rude or unfriendly. I was quiet because silence felt safer than speaking. When you stay silent, no one laughs at you. No one corrects you. No one judges your words. I was afraid to speak, afraid to make mistakes, afraid that my voice would sound wrong, afraid of English. For me, English was not just a language. It was pressure. It was embarrassment. It was fear. Whenever I heard English, my chest felt heavy. My mind became empty. My heart started beating faster. English felt like a wall, a tall wall, a cold wall. On one side of the wall was my real life. A small town, a small salary, a small future. On the other side was everything I wanted. Better work, a bigger world, new opportunities, freedom. But the wall stood there, strong and unmoving, and I didn't know how to climb it. People around me spoke about plans, working abroad, international companies, new countries, new lives. I listened quietly and smiled, but inside I felt small. I felt left behind. I told myself many lies. English is not that important. I can survive without it. This is enough for me. But deep inside, I knew the truth. I wanted more. I just didn't believe I deserved it. So I stayed silent. I stayed comfortable. I stayed afraid. And for a long time, fear was winning. But this is only the beginning. The classroom fear. In school, English felt impossible to me. It was not just a subject. It felt like a punishment. Big words filled the blackboard. Rules and grammar covered the pages of heavy books. The teachers spoke fast, as if everyone already understood. But I didn't. The teacher spoke. I listened carefully. I tried to follow every sentence. But the meaning never reached me. The words entered my ears and disappeared. My notebook was full, but my mind was empty. Around me, my classmates seemed relaxed. They raised their hands. They answered questions. They laughed when they made mistakes. I didn't understand how they did that. How could they speak without fear? I stayed silent. I avoided eye contact. I prayed the teacher would not call my name. But one day she did. She looked at me and said, "Daniel, read this sentence." Just one sentence. Not a paragraph. Not a speech. Only one line from the book. But in that moment, it felt like the whole room stopped breathing. My hands started shaking under the desk. My mouth became dry, like I had not drunk water for days. My heart beat so fast I thought everyone could hear it. I stood up slowly. The book felt heavy in my hands. All eyes were on me. I opened my mouth. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. My mind went blank. The words on the page looked strange. The letters refused to make sound. A few seconds passed. Then someone laughed. Then another. Soon the whole class was laughing. I felt my face burn with shame. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to open and swallow me. The teacher said something about practice and effort. But I didn't hear her words. All I heard was laughter. That sound stayed with me for years. It followed me home. It followed me into my dreams. It followed me into my future. That day, I made a decision inside my heart. Not a smart one. Not a brave one. A dangerous one. I will never speak English again. I sat down and stayed silent. Not just in class, but everywhere. And without knowing it, I locked a door that would take years to open again. The dream and the lie. Years passed quietly. School ended. Real life began. Life became serious. Bills, responsibilities, pressure. I chose to study IT because computers felt safe. Machines did not laugh. Code did not judge my accent. If something didn't work, it was logic, not shame. I was good with computers. I worked hard. I stayed late. I fixed problems others avoided. But when I looked at job opportunities, a painful pattern appeared. Every good job had the same sentence written clearly at the bottom. English required. Sometimes it said, good English skills needed. Sometimes fluent English mandatory. No matter how talented I was, English stood in front of me like a locked gate. I applied for local jobs. Low pay, limited growth, small dreams. One night, tired after work, I was scrolling online. Not searching for hope, just killing time. Then I saw it. A job post in London. International company. Modern office. Good salary. Real growth. A chance to escape my small life. I clicked the post with shaking hands. I read every line slowly. My heart started beating faster. Then my eyes stopped. Fluent English required. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. My heart said, no, you can't. My fear said, don't even try. But my dream spoke softly. What if this is your chance? I sat there for a long time. Minutes passed, maybe hours. I thought about my future, about staying small, about staying silent. Then I did something I had never planned to do. Something crazy, something risky. I opened my resume. I scrolled to the language section. My fingers paused. Then I typed, English fluent. The moment I did it, my stomach twisted. My hands became cold. My heart started racing. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel smart. I didn't feel brave. I felt desperate. Desperate for a chance. Desperate for change. Desperate to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could become the person I was pretending to be. I closed my laptop slowly, not knowing that this one lie was about to change my life forever. The interview night. A few days later, the email arrived. They wanted an interview. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart thumped loudly in my chest. I couldn't breathe properly. My hands shook as I clicked accept. That night's sleep refused me. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about every possible question. What if I freeze? What if they laugh? What if I can't answer? I tried to practice. Over and over, I repeated the simplest lines. Hello, my name is Daniel. I am interested in this role. I like teamwork. Each sentence felt heavy in my mouth. My tongue stumbled over the words. I sounded like a child trying to speak an adult language. But it was all I had. All I could do was keep trying. I imagined the interview room. I imagined the people staring at me, judging me. I imagined making a mistake. And I imagined the shame that would follow. Morning came. My stomach was twisted into knots. I put on my only clean shirt, combed my hair, and sat in front of my laptop. The clock ticked slower than usual. The video call started. The faces of the interviewers appeared. They smiled politely. I smiled back, but my hands were clammy. They asked me questions. Simple questions. Yet every word felt like a mountain to climb. My voice was weak. My grammar was broken. I paused, I stumbled. I forgot words I knew perfectly in my head. But I didn't stop. I spoke slowly. I spoke honestly. I admitted when I didn't know something. I answered the questions with courage, even if imperfect. The interview ended. I felt drained. Every muscle ached. I didn't know if I had done enough. I only knew I had tried. A week later, the email came. I opened it slowly. My heart raced faster than ever. I got the job. I sat there quietly for a long time. I didn't shout. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even tell anyone. Because I was still scared. Scared of failure. Scared of being exposed. Scared of the wall I had just promised to climb. But deep inside, I also felt something new. A tiny spark. A whisper that said, maybe, just maybe, you can do this. And in that quiet, scared moment, I realized that this was not the end. It was only the beginning. London hit hard. When I landed in London, reality hit me harder than I had imagined. The plane touched the runway, and for the first time, I was outside my small town in Poland. I should have felt excitement. I should have felt pride. Instead, I felt fear. People spoke fast. Too fast. Everywhere. At the airport, the announcements were a blur. On the streets, strangers shouted directions, chatted on phones, laughed. On the bus, conversations swirled around me like a storm. I understood nothing. Not a single word. I clutched my bag tightly. I forced myself to smile. When someone asked a question I couldn't answer, I nodded when I had no idea what was being said. I pretended, even though my stomach twisted with anxiety. When I arrived at my new office, the fear only grew. Meetings felt like hurricanes of words. Ideas flew faster than I could follow. Colleagues joked, laughed, debated. I stared, nodded, smiled. I tried to catch a single word, a single clue. I felt invisible, small, unprepared. At lunch, I couldn't order confidently. Even simple questions made my hands shake. I whispered the words silently, rehearsing phrases I had memorized. Every wrong answer, every misunderstood word, felt like proof that I didn't belong here. At night, I returned to my small Airbnb room in Queens. $40 a night. A bed, a window, a tiny lamp. I didn't look out at the city lights. I didn't feel like celebrating. I sat on the edge of the bed. My hands rested on my knees. And I cried. Quietly. Alone. I asked myself the question that haunted me. What am I doing here? I thought of the lie on my resume. I thought of the dream that had brought me here. I felt the weight of it all pressing down on me. I realized then that landing in London was easy. Surviving London, that was the challenge. The language, the culture, the fast-paced life. It all felt like a wall I didn't know how to climb. But even in that fear, a tiny thought sparked. If I turn back now, I will never forgive myself. If I give up, the dream dies. So I wiped my tears. I sat up straight, and I promised myself silently, tomorrow I will try again. One step, one word, one sentence at a time. That night, London was terrifying, but it was also the place where I would start to fight. And fight I had to. The decision. One night after another exhausting day of misunderstandings and silent fear, I stood in front of the mirror in my tiny London apartment. The room was quiet. Only the hum of the heater filled the space. I looked at myself. Really looked. For a long time I didn't speak. I studied my reflection, the pale face, the tired eyes, the nervous hands. And then, almost like a whisper, I said aloud the words that would change everything. You can quit or you can fight. Those words echoed in my small room. I didn't feel brave. I didn't feel confident. I only felt the weight of my choice. I could go back to silence, to hiding, to pretending. Or I could face the fear. I could fight. That night, I made a rule for myself. A rule that would guide every action, every moment, every thought. Every day, English, no excuses. The next morning, I woke up early. The city outside was still dark. Streetlights glimmered through my window. I brewed a cup of coffee, bitter and strong, and sat at my tiny table with my laptop. I opened an English video. I watched carefully, word by word. I repeated each sentence, slowly at first, then a little faster. I practiced pronunciation, intonation, rhythm. I spoke to myself in the mirror, pretending I was speaking to a colleague, a friend, a stranger. I recorded my voice and listened, cringing at first. Every mispronounced word felt like failure. Every awkward sentence felt like proof that I wasn't ready. And yet I kept going. At work, the real world tested me. Meetings, emails, quick questions, small talks. I made mistakes. I mispronounced words. I forgot phrases. People corrected me politely, sometimes impatiently. Embarrassment hit me like a wave. My cheeks burned. My hands trembled. But I remembered the mirror. I remembered my rule. I had chosen to fight. And fighting meant continuing even when it hurt. Even when it felt impossible. Even when fear whispered that I wasn't good enough. That day, I didn't master English. I didn't speak perfectly, but I started. I showed up. And that small act, waking up, practicing, trying, failing, learning, was the first step in changing my life forever. From that night onward, English was no longer just a subject. It was my battlefield. It was the fire that would forge a new version of myself. And I had made the decision to fight. The chain. The first 30 days felt endless. Every morning, I woke up before the city stirred. Every night, I went to bed exhausted from repeating sentences, watching videos, reading, writing, recording my voice. Some days I wanted to give up. Some days the words slipped through my mind like water through fingers. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things started to shift. After 30 days, I noticed I could understand small things. At work, I caught a word in a meeting. On the bus, I recognized a phrase someone said. At first, it was just a fragment, a piece of conversation. But it was enough to make me feel a spark of hope. A tiny voice inside whispered, "Maybe this is possible." By 45 days, I began speaking more. Slowly, carefully, every sentence was deliberate, measured. I still stumbled. I still mispronounced words. I still felt the heat of embarrassment when someone corrected me. But I spoke, and speaking, even imperfectly, felt like claiming a small victory each day. Then came day 60, and with it, something bigger than words or sentences. Something deeper. I started believing that I could survive in this city. Believing that English was no longer a wall, but a tool I could use. Believing that my efforts, my failures, my tears had meaning. It was on a normal Thursday that my manager, David, approached me after a meeting. He looked at me carefully, like he was noticing something new. Then he smiled and said, "Daniel, you've improved a lot." His words hit me harder than any insult or correction ever had. Not because they were unexpected, but because they were proof. Proof that all the hours, the embarrassment, the lonely nights, the fear had been worth it. That night I went home. I closed the door behind me. I didn't rush to tell anyone. I didn't celebrate with a drink or a shout. I just sat down on my small bed, staring at the ceiling, and I cried. Not from pain, not from failure, but from pride. Pride for the boy who once couldn't speak a single sentence. Pride for the lie that had forced him to fight. Pride for the courage to continue even when every word felt heavy. In that quiet moment, I realized something powerful. English had not just changed my ability to communicate. It had changed my belief in myself. It had given me a voice, not perfect, but real. And that voice was mine. The message. Today I speak English every day. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, but with confidence. Every morning I wake up and choose to speak. I choose to listen. I choose to try even if I stumble. And every day those small choices add up. When I think back to the boy who couldn't read one sentence aloud in a classroom, who froze in meetings, who cried silently at night in his tiny London apartment, I can hardly believe it was me. But it was, and that boy made a choice. A choice that changed everything. You see, English did not change my life. It was not magic. It did not arrive overnight. It was not the grammar books, the videos, or even the countless hours of practice alone that transformed me. It was my decision. The decision to stop running from fear. The decision to stand in front of a mirror. To speak out loud, to fail and try again. The decision to say, I will fight, not hide. Fear will come for you too. It will appear in the classroom, in interviews, on the streets, in meetings. It will whisper, you can't, you're not ready, you'll fail. Do not listen. Fear is not a stop sign. Fear is not a wall. Fear is not the end. Fear is a door to something bigger than yourself. A door to growth, to learning, to confidence. A door that asks you to take one step, then another. And you are strong enough to open it. You are strong enough to take that first sentence, that first conversation, that first mistake. You are strong enough to keep going, even when it hurts. Every word you speak, every sentence you write, every small daily effort builds a bridge from fear to confidence, a bridge from silence to voice, a bridge from who you were to who you are capable of becoming. So if you are scared, if you feel small, if you think you're not good enough, remember this. The fear you feel is proof that you care. The fear you feel is proof that you are on the edge of change. And on the other side of that fear is your new life, waiting for you. Today I speak English, but more importantly, I speak with courage. And that courage is something no one can ever take away. Now it's your turn. Open the door, step forward, and start your journey. Because the world is listening, and it is ready to hear you.